Woodford Square, the People's National Movement presentation of candidates for the general election 2025.
Woodford Square, let me hear you. People's National Movement, let me hear you. Trinidad and Tobago, this is what we have to offer to you, our citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Because what you're seeing here today is historic. What you're seeing here today in Woodford Square started in 1955. It started with Dr. Eric Williams. And you know what happened? It was the colonials that refused to renew Dr. Eric Williams' contract that led to the formation of the People's National Movement in 1955. And today, all these years later, right here from Woodford Square, the People's National Movement has provided leadership not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but throughout the CARICOM, throughout the region, as well as globally. And today we come here today to celebrate and to present 41 candidates, 41 quality citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, as we have always done. But allow me to start, because as General Secretary Foster Cummings said, we have a history that went from Dr. Eric Williams to George Chambers to Patrick Augustus Manning to then Keith Christopher Rowley, and I ask you to give him another round of applause here this afternoon. Citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, the People's National Movement has shown you here this evening that once again, in the year 2025, we will provide leadership, we will provide quality citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to guide this country going forward. And allow me to start by telling you, we have a fighter in Dr. Rowley, and I promise you, you will also have a fighter in StuartYoung, because I will fight for you, Trinidad and Tobago. Allow me briefly to give you a couple stories about those fights. Because you see, our country depends on money. We need money from oil and gas. In this term, we had people who had a plan to get lower prices for our gas. So what they did is they got people in the media to run stories against the government and say they're collapsing the energy sector. You all remember that? They tried to shut down plants to say that the PNM was collapsing the energy sector. You remember that? But if you did not have a fighter in Dr. Rowley as the Prime Minister to stand strong for our country, we would have lost billions of dollars in revenue. And today I assure you that fight will continue on our children's behalf, on our behalf, and on the future of Trinidad and Tobago's behalf. Let me give you a story, two stories about Dr. Rowley. So we had gone to Washington, and in one day, he had to speak to 5 different groups of people, 5 different groups of their politicians, from the Republican Party, from the Democratic Party, because it's important that you know what this PNM does on your behalf. So he went, I was there with him, and we spoke to these lawmakers in the United States. And there was one of them in particular who it was clear did not want to hear too much about what we were saying for Trinidad and Tobago. But we stuck with it. We stuck with it. And in the middle of the meeting, we spotted an opening, because it is only a PNM. It is only a PNM member of parliament, a PNM prime minister, a PNM minister of energy that could do that. And as we spotted the opening and we made our arguments, by the end of the meeting, this Republican lawmaker said, I will support Trinidad and Tobago. So don't listen to them out there. Now, this is the embarrassing part for me. So as we leave in the meeting now, the man says, well, thank you very much, Prime Minister Rowley. It was a great pleasure. You have my support. I will speak to my colleagues to see what we could do, and we will support Trinidad and Tobago. He said, but forgive me. He said, Minister Young, I want to offer you a job to come and work for me. So I waiting for Dr. Rowley to run the man and to tell him, no. Dr. Rowley say, no, Stuart, I going nowhere. That's the first one. Another time, we on an official visit to the People's Republic of China. Now, when you go to the People's Republic of China, it is crowds like this. It is plenty people. So we were walking, myself and Dr. Rowley, Mrs. Rowley, Sharon. I saw him looking around. I said, what Dr. Rowley watching, boy? And I saw him do so. So he called me up. And you know what he told me? He says, Stuart, stick close, because if I lose you here, I am finding you to take you back to Trinidad. That's our Dr. Rowley's sense of humor. PNM family, I have come here this afternoon not only to pledge to continue fighting for our country, but to tell you a little bit about myself. Because you see, it's important you understand who is joining this battle now. It was in 1998, I came back to Trinidad. In 1998, the UNC first iteration was in power. You all remember that? Basleo Pandey's government in 98. When I came back, there was a massive corruption scandal with the Piarco airport. You all remember that? That is as far back as the corruption goes. So as a young man, I said and I listened carefully. And I said, this is my Trinidad and Tobago. This is my Trinidad and Tobago. And I will never associate with corruption. And it was right there and then I took a decision to follow the People's National Movement that was in opposition. And that is when I came amongst the ranks. But it went on. I went to a couple meetings, I standing in the back like those people in the back, I listening to PNM. I appreciated the policy because PNM is always looking out for every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. PNM never attacks citizens of Trinidad and Tobago the way we hear others doing. And what happened was I then was in the Piarco Commission of Inquiry. And I sat there and listened to that round of UNC corruption. A door that was supposed to cost $800, they charge us, the taxpayers, $8,000 for. So I stuck around the PNM. And then I started to do work for the state and for the PNM. I started going to more meetings in the PNM. One of the first meetings I went to was a Dr. Rowley meeting at a roundabout. A roundabout in, thank you, yeah. At a roundabout right there in Diego Martin West. And I listened. Went to San Fernando. I listened. And I began to associate with our party. But let me tell you what happened. Because I wasn't a frontline member of the PNM. I wasn't walking all over saying I am PNM. But I was doing my work. I was minding my business. I was minding my business like some of the lawyers we have here. Like the lawyer we have here, Larry Lala, Senior Counsel, who left the UNC. Give him a round of applause. So I am doing work on your behalf. I am fighting for Trinidad and Tobago on your behalf. I represented the then Prime Minister Patrick Manning on behalf of Trinidad and Tobago. 2010, as Foster said, some of us decided we're not going out to vote. And you know what happened in 2010? Some of us allowed the UNC, not me, because I dipped my hand in the ink after I voted for the Balize. And we allowed the UNC and the PP government in 2010. You know what was the first thing they did? They fired me from every single state brief I had. I worked for myself, so I know firsthand what the UNC does to the People's National Movement members and anybody associated with it. So I am warning you here this afternoon. I am warning you this afternoon. Do not allow them anywhere near to office as we go forward. And that was when I decided I had had enough. I did a matter for Dr. Rowley in the Parliament. He asked me to be a temporary opposition senator, and I proudly joined the People's National Movement 2014, walked away from my professional career the same way Dr. Rowley did at a similar age, and I joined the PNM, fought frontline, and I have been fighting for the People's National Movement and Trinidad and Tobago ever since. And I thank each and every one of you. I thank every one of you for giving me that honor and that opportunity to represent Trinidad and Tobago with PNM principles. I stand here this afternoon. In the next few hours, change will take place in Trinidad and Tobago. And I stand here today and I give the commitment not only to my party, who I will fight for, I will die for, I will be in the front line for, but I give the commitment to all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago that I will represent all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And I want us, Trinidad and Tobago, to be unified. I want us to come together. I want us to fulfill our national anthem, where every creed and every race can find an equal place right here, starting in the People's National Movement. Do I have your commitment here this evening? It was Dr. Eric Williams who told us the PNM is not an ordinary party. It is him who told us we will welcome all into the PNM. And today, Trinidad and Tobago, as we prepare ourselves in the not too distant future, in the coming months, to go to the polls as the People's National Movement, I welcome all citizens who are willing to build a better Trinidad and Tobago, to come on board with us and to elect us into office as we take it from this strong foundation and we move it upwards. I have a vision. You will hear more about my vision in the coming weeks. But I want to tell you my vision for the young people of Trinidad and Tobago, because I stood here this evening and I was proud to see some of our young entertainers in Trinidad and Tobago. And it dawned on me to tell you this story. I was one of the first people that employed Hans Devines, Whitney Husbands, and Charles Marshall, because I formed Synergy TV. And I promised to bring that type of entrepreneurial spirit into our next government as we begin to look after, using the platform we've given to our young people. We look after our young people going forward. And it segues straight into another area we will focus on more heavily, because we have a good foundation. It was us, this PNM government, that made the PAN the national instrument. It is this PNM government that made it and gave it the type of life that has been brought back. You all just came out of Carnival. We just came out of Carnival. We just had a great Carnival. And that is a product that we, the next government, will find ways to market, to build, to make sure young entertainers find more space. And the way we are going to do that is the same Mohammed and others. We will call them to arms. We will call our young people to get together. We will form a committee of young entertainers to work with the government, to use their young minds that think with vision and outside of the box, because there is a lot of potential and diversification in our products of Trinidad and Tobago. And that is one area for our young people. But as I call for unity, I want to thank my colleagues. I want to sincerely thank my colleagues and highlight some of my colleagues for the work that they have done and for bringing us where we are and for where I expect us to go next. I want to start by thanking our our Penny Beckles. Let's hear it for Penny. You all just heard the strength of Foster Cummins, who has done so much in building a platform for youth. I want to thank Foster. I want to thank Faris. You all know Faris. We want to thank Faris. I want to thank Camille. I want to thank Marvin. And I want to thank everyone who is going to join this battle as we go forward. Because you see, a strong, united PNM is unbeatable. So here today in Woodford Square, I am calling on a party to get together, stand with strength. Let us be unified. Let us go forth, and we will deliver victory, because we need to continue looking after all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And that is what the People's National Movement is about. So I ask you all to get ready, prepare yourselves, because we are about to write the next chapter. We are about to write a new chapter for Trinidad and Tobago. And we thank Dr. Rowley for giving us a magnificent platform to catapult Trinidad and Tobago forward. We will focus on the issues of security as we have been doing. We will also focus on our economy as we have been doing. But I think you can expect that us now having the experience, we will find ways to take Trinidad and Tobago forward. We know what we have to do. This is not a party that will come into power looking to see what could be put in our pocket. You have a stable party and government for 10 years, and today I am asking for a unified party, a unified country, and help me to write the next chapter for Trinidad and Tobago. As I stand here this evening, and you will hear more from me in the coming days, I pledge right here in Woodford Square, all of these years later, the way Dr. Eric Williams did and every PNM Prime Minister did, I give my public pledge and assurance here this evening to Trinidad and Tobago that I will continue fighting everyone opposed to Trinidad and Tobago, fighting for our young children, fighting for our middle class, fighting for every single body, fighting for our young professionals who are looking for the jobs. And I will lead our PNM government into victory in 2025. You have our commitment, and you have my commitment. I am not afraid of anyone. I am not afraid of any lie that they will continue to tell. I am not afraid of any opponent of the People's National Movement. And today, I stand here as a proud Trinbagonian, born right here on Upper Henry Street. I stand here today and give my full commitment to lead the People's National Movement and Trinidad and Tobago, and for every citizen who is prepared to build Trinidad and Tobago to join us on our movement, and look forward to seeing all of you and all the newcomers, all our young people at Balizay House on that night when we've won the general elections, as we say in unison, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall and we have prevailed. I thank you.